Hey everyone, this is the first of the tactics videos from the 1500 point tournament Paddy and I both played in last weekend. The first round I had was versus Adam and his Bretonians, and I want to talk today about positioning large bases. So in I've been playing this list for a while, and learning to use Skycut as well has been really interesting because the Skycutter in the high off list is probably the most points efficient unit there is. A 90 point heavy chariot that flies with Swiss stride and has a bunch of other things like missile fire, fear, unit strength one for close order going for it. It's definitely the best deal, and I think an automatic inclusion in the list. However, playing them in real life can be quite difficult because the bulk of the base, 60 by 100, is cumbersome. It can block line of sight, and getting that 60 millimeter charge arc is sometimes difficult to pull off. So this game has sort of showed that in point where I've sort of made a mistake strategically and then was able to recover it by better positioning on the turn after. So if you look at the setup that I have down the bottom, on the left-hand side, these are naked Skycutters, and this one is a mage riding the chariot. After my first turn, I wanted to give the Duke that Adam had deployed on his right flank a bait, and I sort of threw this Skycutter out here as a means that if he charged it, I would just flee and rally. And look, it's a great idea. It was the right idea, and I just executed it really poorly. Both of these Skycutters should have been angled somewhat like this mage here, where the mage, they have 360 line of sight for missile fire and spells. The mage is benefiting from the cover of the woods from these Pegasus Knights, so they can't charge it, and throughout a crystal column at max range to be able to block, any spells or anything else through this channel. So here, one, I did nothing with this Skycutter except break off the top sail, which was not great. But on the other hand, smartly, I had pulled this Skycutter over in the front of the hill. So over the top, these things could shoot over it. But I had set it facing forwards, thinking, oh, I'll just charge one of these units. I'll definitely be in. What happens next is that Adam uses Travel Mystical Pathway, which I knew he had and had talked about beforehand, on this unit of Knights of the Realm to be able to just move up 12 inches. He also demurs and refuses to charge my Skycutter here and instead sidles down the right flank, which deceptively, but given over 360-inch charge range, has access to pretty much everything on this side of the board. So this poor Skycutter, on my third turn, I end up declaring a charge where I want to charge this unit. I need at least 2 units to get in because one is not going to break it. And I'm thinking, oh, I've got this flank. This is ideal. I'm going to come in and get +1 for close order, +1 for the flank charge. Unit strength 5. Actually, that won't break the heavy infantry ranks, but at the same time, it's a great deal. It ends up being very close, but my charge arc goes right by, and I can't get in there. And that means I have to send in the mage as well, when I would have preferred the mage who had gotten Miasmic Mirage up on these pegs to sort of stick around here, keep this sort of threat range from Miasmic Mirage up. Because if this Skycutter had got in and the Griffin had got in, I think I can stay 20 inches away from the Duke and just keep locking down this unit while I clean up in the middle. That was the plan anyway, but because I'm out here, what I needed to do was then send the mage in with the Griffin, and that sort of turned the mage into a beat stick, which fortunately I have the potential to do in this list, but meant I was down into like sort of sea level planning now, because if the whole idea here was that if the Duke gets out and can run amok, I don't really have an answer and it can pick off one of my units one at a time. Mirage was my best answer, and shooting. However, what I will say is I did recover somewhat. I made a smarter play where I then did the right thing. So I brought the Skycut around, I passed my March test, hooked it around and faced it perpendicular. So I think this is sort of the rule of thumb that you should apply, that I brought it around facing 90 degrees, so then it's sort of maximizing this charge arc for whatever else. Like if this unit had rallied, I'll talk about that in a second, and this unit had gone further, I probably have line of sight on these things. What was good here on top of that was that I broke that unit of Knights on foot. they fled quite a large distance, but they bounced through my Skycutter. And even though I didn't roll, even though Adam sort of rolled well to avoid the peril test, I did force a peril test there as well. And then on the right, you can see that the Skycutter, what happens is this mage is able to reform after catching the curs, and they both end up having line of sight on this second unit and charging it later and beating it in combat quite handily again. So yeah, that's it. A lot to say, but positioning for not just charges, but for maximum potential and with large bases is quite difficult, and you need a bit of practice. But I think the rule of thumb here is that you want to face them perpendicular. Fleeing from the Duke didn't need to be front on. If it collected it in the side while it would have got a flank charge, remember I was fleeing anyway, it would have pivoted away from the Duke and gone the direction I wanted it to go anyway. So there's something to talk about later with free movement. I think it's worth saying, like, I'm starting to feel like some of the more high level things that you can do in Warhammer are getting free movement, like overruns, free pivots, verbigos from evasive. And I think in this case, if you've got something fleeing from charges, it provides a lot of advantage, but you got to set yourself up to maximize the options you have the next turn. And if you've got high movement, like the Skycutter, especially with Swift Stride, you should be moving it forward with the aim of pivoting. And even though march wheels are sometimes done very loosely by a lot of players, if you do the maths, it's still 4 inches. So you get 16 up, boom, 3.8 or 4 inches to face perpendicular. You're going to give yourself the best amount of options. So if you're doing that at home, good luck, and we'll see you next time. The video with the full battle report for this will be out in a couple of days.